big secret. There is nothing wrong with telling people what you do at the Supreme Court of the United States. And in fact, the more people that know, the better. That's what we try to do. So what is it I tell to the visitors, whether they're in the 10th grade or whether they're in the 5th grade, like my grandchildren? I just talked to their class about law. What is it I tell them? They want to know, what do I do every day? Well, what's my day? Well, first of all, what does the court do? I start with this. Look, what does a court do? What does any court do? People have arguments. Let's ask the 10th graders, you ever get into an argument with your friends? Yes. Parents? Yes, yes, yes. You get over it? Yes. Always? Well, yes. Well, some people don't get over some argument. And they may have to do with family. They may have to do with money. They may have to do with crimes. Now, when you don't get over the argument, very often you go to a lawyer. And that lawyer is supposed to help you get over the argument. It's called settling. But often, not often, but every so often, they can't, or they don't. And then we're in court. Now still, out of these trillions of arguments, we may be down to a few million now. Most will settle. But some don't, then you go to trial. Now what court? We have 50 states. There are 50 sets of courts. There are 50 governors. There are 50 legislatures. And then there is a federal overlay of courts too. So we have 51 systems. Most law, now it becomes a little more surprising. People don't know this. Almost all law in the United States is made in the states. So if my student group is from California, I say, what city is the law made that affects you and your family? The answer, 10% will say Washington. See, they're wrong. It's Sacramento. All family law, state. Criminal law, almost all state. Business law, almost all state. Environmental law, mostly state. Education law, almost all state. I could go through area after area, state, 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 state. So I say to them, you want to help your family, you want to help your friends, go back to where you're from, don't all run to Washington. Now I grant you that the members of Congress will get their name in the newspaper more. But that doesn't mean that what they do, it's important, but not necessarily the most important. So remember that from our current discussion's point of view, because we only handle federal cases. That is to say, cases involving interpretation of federal law. That is to say, law passed by Congress and the Constitution of the United States. Law passed by Congress, maybe 3% of all the laws passed in the United States. I made up that number, but nonetheless, you get the point. You get the point. You get the point. And unlike most federal courts, most federal courts hear some state law cases too. And almost all state courts hear some federal cases too, involving the interpretation of federal law. Okay? They put the procedure teachers do that to confuse everyone. But nonetheless, you're back in court, you have a lawyer, one wins, one loses. The losing lawyer thinks the judge is... The jury finds the facts, the judge finds the law. That's simplified, basically. The judge says what the law is. Losing lawyer thinks the judge made a mistake. He's an imbecile. He doesn't say he's an imbecile. Nonetheless, made a mistake. What is the winning... Oh, this is good. You're a psychiatrist. You're the only ones who will know the answer to this question. What does the winning lawyer think of the judge? What? Yeah, you all got the answer, because he doesn't think about the judge. He thinks he's a good lawyer. But in any case, we keep appealing. We keep appealing. There's always another appeal until finally you get up to the state Supreme Court or the highest court in the state that's going to decide this, or maybe the Federal Court of Appeals, and then there's only one place to go, and that's us. Now we're beginning to hone in on what we do. Probably there are 80 to 100,000 cases in the highest courts of the state, the Federal Appeals Court, that have a federal question. I'm trying to decide here, should I deviate and tell you what a question of law is? You probably know, but it's a good story. I'm in France, and the newspaper has the following article. A biology teacher is traveling from Nantes to Paris with, in a little basket, 20 live snails. The conductor comes up to him and says, "What's in the basket?" Opens it up, snails. He says, "You buy a ticket for the snails?" The professor says, what are you talking about? I'm in my biology class, there's snails. He says, "Read what it says. Right here in the tariff, it says, small animals brought on the train must be in a basket and they must buy a half-price ticket." What? Now, this is good for a 5th grade class. I get into a good debate right away about this. You say, well, okay, they mean dogs and cats. They're not talking about snails. Well, is a snail an animal? So we have the little. What about a mosquito? Suppose there were 20 mosquitoes. Is a snail an animal? No, they mean dogs and cats. Now we get into the argument for 15 minutes with the 5th grade, and they're all taking sides about this, and I say, great, you are lawyers. Children are natural lawyers. I said, there we are. That is the question of law. I don't know the answer. I know when it came out in the newspaper that the train company paid back the half fare, but that was because of public relations. That wasn't because they were necessarily wrong. So now you have the paradigm of what we do. We decide questions of law. Now, more than that, we're so far back to our 80 to 100,000 cases, which involve questions like that, emanating from either the Constitution or laws passed by Congress, and about probably 10%, 8,000, 7,000 to 8,000 every year ask us to hear the case. We have discretionary jurisdiction, we don't have to. So now we see I have 2 jobs. The first is to decide what to decide, and the second is to decide what we decided to decide, and they give you that test to see if you followed through. But you see the point. 8,000 or 7,000, that's 150 a week. 150 little booklets saying, please take my case, little booklets saying, don't ever take that case, and 150 come in a week. How do I do this? It's a long windup, but I want you to see what's coming, because then you'll understand what we do. We have law clerks. Each of us have 4 assistants, law clerks.